This is it.
I'm
This is
telling
the
you,
one.
I'm telling you,
This is
jump,
the
I'm
one.
telling you, get up and jump for like
Let's do
5 seconds.
some star jumps. Alright.
Do like 10 jumps.
Jumps? Star jumps? What are we talking?
Just literally just jump. Just jump up and down. All right, now Wolfie, make sure that's in the video. Okay, make sure that's in the video.
As I was doing, I was like, he's just doing this to make me look like an idiot, isn't he?
No, it does. It gets your energy good.
It does actually help a little bit. Yo, welcome back to Highroller, the TFT show where we talk about the best comps that no one else is playing. Today I'm joined by Dylan, and we're going to talk through our favourite comps from the last week since patch 13.6b. How you doing, Dylan?
I'm doing not too bad. Can I tell you that this last week has been kind of hell for me? I've been in the trenches, as you might know from last week. I was in the bottom of the barrel silver biatch. But now, and I said I'd be diamond the next time I'd be talking to you, but I'll admit, a little bit overzealous. That being said, plat 1, alright?
Plat 1?
I don't mess around.
What LP
Plat
are we
1.
talking? Are we talking plat 180 or plat 10? Because plat 1's a danger zone, man. Plat 1's hell.
I'm telling you, there is at least 1 0 in there.
Plat 10 then. Okay, I see how it is. Moving on swiftly.
Best comps.
Moving on swiftly to the first comp of the week. This will be my comp, and today we are playing LeBlanc Reroll. So this is a comp focused around LeBlanc being a hacker and admin. So LeBlanc being a premier backline 3-cost carry, as it were, you don't tend to think of her as a unit that you want to hacker. But her ability to do a lot of burst damage very quickly, especially if you can get an augment such as Aim Assist, is she can just one-shot an entire enemy backline before they even get to do any damage, and then she can start chipping away at that front line afterwards. So as long as you can avoid her getting bursted down before she gets the backline, you know, there's there's some stuff to do there, and she definitely has the ability and power to be jumping straight to the back line and one-shotting the entire enemy. What are your initial thoughts?
Well, I'll say I don't think I've ever played this comp except maybe once or twice in the last set. But I haven't played any LeBlanc since 8.5, so I can't really speak too much to it, other than the fact that I think for this comp to work, you're gonna need a good admin.
Yep.
And you're also going to want to beware about Hackerman, because I don't know whether it's actually bugged or if I'm just bad at the game, probably a bit of both, but I feel like Hacker is like the least consistent thing of all time. I feel like whenever my enemies have Hackerman, they instantly lock straight onto my carry, and then if I do it, they just run to like the other corner of the board and just kind of like chill. They don't really do anything. So just beware and be ready to be like, okay, hacker sucks and I'm never doing this again. But you know what? If you're making it work, Wyxip, then I'll trust you on this one. Tell me a little bit about the early game.
So, in going into the early game, you obviously want to be trying to get that LeBlanc online as early as possible. Making the most of her Spell Slinger trait is also a way to get her up to power nice and quickly. You're not going to be hackering her in really early. It's not worth it. You'll basically be playing 3 dead units at that, or 2 dead units, because obviously you're playing the LeBlanc. However, you can very easily build a solid front line. You can build something. This is just an example. There's many different front lines that you can build. But throw in a Blitz to get that admin in nice and early. You can throw in an Alisar and Annie for a bit of Oxforce delay, you know, allowing your LeBlanc, especially if you get a scaling admin. Having some Oxforce in there's a really nice way to get a couple extra seconds. Might be the difference between your LeBlanc getting an extra 20 AP and murdering the whole team, or losing by 3 units. Because LeBlanc's one of those units that's very bursty, you know. Either she'll get through everything, or she won't even start to play the game. She won't even get a chance. But by building yourself a big front line like this, getting yourself that Aegis as well between those two, at level 5, you can become a force to be reckoned with. Really save that HP. And if you build this whole board 2-star, get some decent items on LeBlanc, you can basically skip level 6. Just go straight to level 7. And then start rolling down for that 3-star.
Sounds good. Very bursty, very busty. If you get yourself a big bitty LeBlanc, looks like you're in for a first place.
Something like that, absolutely. And the best thing about it is she's really strong early game as well. As I said before, if you can just 2-star her, throw a couple items on, even at 1-star she does a massive amount of damage. It's more about the front line. Get yourself a couple 2-stars, throw in maybe something like, even really early, throw in a Renekton and Blitz. A great early game pair. You 2-star both of these and that's your front line sorted for the whole of stage 2. Maybe even early stage 3. Throw yourself in a random Lux, get that spell sling going. There's lots of different variants that you can play early game. And yeah, absolutely. So having that early game HP retention and ability for her to scale into the late game really strongly as well. You won't be winning unless you can 3-star her late game. But at the same time, she makes up for that early game as well, allowing you to 3-star later.
And now, am I correct in saying that because of the shared admin trait, Blitzcrank can not only be your tank through stage 2 and possibly stage 3 for the whole game? Am I correct in saying this?
So there's a couple different schools of thought, perhaps some might say. You could absolutely play a Blitzcrank tank, especially if you're 3-starring him. Blitz is a very oppressive carry. Throw on a Protector's Vow for that earlier cast on him. You can throw on an Ionic Spark for a bit of shred. You can throw on any tank items really onto your Blitzcrank early, and he will be very strong in the early game, and even scale pretty well into the late game if you 3-star him. Now, if you don't 3-star him, fret not. You just sell him, play a Blitzcrank, and later on you can be tanking someone like Shen. Now, obviously, with Shen being a hacker, to pair with the LeBlanc, he's vital for this comp. He's also a brilliant tank. His ability being able to protect that LeBlanc as well in the backline, while she's
Which
there,
is going to be so much more important as well, that I add, since she's going to be
Precisely.
in the enemy backline. Being able to
Exactly.
be invulnerable while a lot of people might be targeting you is very important.
You got it. So being able to play that Shen and have that Shen as your tank becomes even more essential, because you can basically allow the Shen to get off multiple casts rather than just one, and sometimes that can just save your LeBlanc if your Shen manages to eat an entire MF or something, because he has reduced damage while he's in this Stand United form as well. So moving on to the end game board. Your endgame board is going to look something like this. You're going to have your 3 hacker in, so you're going to have Pyke, Shen, LeBlanc. Obviously, you can remove your Pyke if you hit a hacker crest or a hacker heart. That can be a really nice way to get a power spike on the board, because by playing Pyke, you're sort of playing a unit down. He's kind of a, to use some Soju terminology, a reverse Fon. You're playing with a dead unit, essentially. So if you can get rid of that Pyke and play something, perhaps instead take an Alistair or a Defender to pair with the Shen, it can beef up your entire backline, giving that LeBlanc a lot more time to sit and deal that all-important damage that we know she can actually do. It's also worth noting that the positioning here is really interesting. You want to be backlining all of your team other than your LeBlanc to allow the enemy team to essentially, say we take this Lulu as the enemy team, right? This Lulu's going to start up here, and she's going to do a little run down here, and your Camille will meet her here, right? So this gives your LeBlanc some space. It gives her some time and space to actually, rather than being crowded out by the enemy team, having the enemy team move to your backline gives her a lot of time and space to attack those backline carries rather than accidentally focusing their front line, which is what you want to avoid, because then your LeBlanc will get stuck and ultimately die.
Just a bit of classic assassin tech if you ever played some of the earlier sets.
Absolutely. So we're going all the way back to stage 6, I believe, with assassins.
Oh yeah, I remember playing VIP Talon.
I don't think I ever played Talon, to be honest. But yeah, that gives you an idea. It's very similar to your Draven in that sort of sense. But it spikes a little bit earlier than Draven, because you only have to 2-star your LeBlanc to get that initial power spike. And it spikes a bit harder at the end of the game when you hit that LeBlanc 3. So it's a slightly harder to hit that final spike, which is why it's not as prevalent at the moment. But it's all the more powerful for it. Admins that you want to be looking for, right, are AP. You want anything that gives your admins or whole team AP. Anything that gets healing on kill. Healing on kill is really nice, because your LeBlanc is going to basically be the only person getting any kills on your team. So being able to funnel all of your damage or healing onto that LeBlanc is going to be really important. It allows your frontline to be more prevalent, in the term that should anyone actually attach onto your LeBlanc, she can heal it up while your frontline is distracting their frontline, if that makes any sense. There's also, you're also happy to get any combat star, AP, or mana to help her cast a little bit earlier. Every 5 seconds getting mana and AP. Wyxip, Jeweled Lotus, so you don't have to build that JG, you can fit on that extra damage item, maybe throw a hat on her, maybe throw double mana, along with your Giant Slayer or Guardbreaker, and you can really utilize some of these augments to give LeBlanc an extra item slot. So by giving her Axiom Arc, you could almost build triple damage LeBlanc, or double damage and a healing item instead of a mana item, because she can then regain that mana a slightly different way, if that makes sense. She could get those backline kills really quickly, instantly flip onto another target, and she's already got her mana back to cast again. So absolutely, Axiom Arc is a really strong augment pickup. I've also highlighted Admin Crest, Admin Heart, anything like that. Again, same argument as the hacker, getting rid of that Pike. You can get rid of your Camille. It's a wasted unit slot unless you 3-star her. Put in something a bit better, throw in a Rel, throw in a Garen, get that defender up and running, which really helps bolster your team's backline and tankiness.
And very last thing I wanted to just touch on, because it's an idea that I had, and it comes back to the Alistar support augment, where it immediately shreds the entire board. I feel like if you ever get the option where you can play a carry Alistar augment, I think you can just slot him in instead of Viego here, and that's gonna help your LeBlanc, I think, instantly start getting kills in the back. If just you get someone shred and you have some good damage items, and you instantly start just one-shotting things, and then coupled with something like Axiom Arc, and you just go nuclear straight off the bat, and the other team doesn't even have time to scale up because they're just dead.
Yeah, this is certainly one of those comps where I think this is possibly the only comp where the Alistar support augment, the one you're on about where it shreds 50% of the entire enemy team for the whole battle. I feel like this is one of the only comps where this augment's actually useful, because when you look at the Spark or the Shiv shred, it's also 50%. So it feels like this augment is slightly wasted on normal AP comps, because you could get basically a free augment at the cost of just one item. It doesn't feel like it's quite worth it. Whereas you play a LeBlanc and you jump her to the backline, and instead of now having to build a Shiv on someone else, or having to build a Spark and it not actually reaching the backline and not getting maximum value out of it, you're absolutely right. This Alistar augment can shred that entire backline, allowing LeBlanc to burst through it even quicker and get onto the next target. Obviously, when LeBlanc kills someone, she gets an extra sigil to fire at the next person as well. So being able to burst through more than one person each cast becomes increasingly important, and that shred can really help with that, absolutely. Once again, this is a short break to advertise my Wyxip Wipeout tournament, which will be hosted on the 22nd of April at 4 p.m. BST. This will be a $100+ prize pool tourney with some fun little rules that we can play that will be announced on the day. If you would like to enter, come and join my Discord, which will be in the description below.
Alright, this is what I got for the week. I've been playing this comp a few times, and it's done me a fair bit of justice. It is a Kaisa carry quick draw comp. I like to play 3 or 4. We got the early game board up right here. I think I just like using Lucian because he holds Kaisa's items perfectly. And he's pretty reliable to get. He's a 1-star. You can usually pretty often get him in stage 1. And if you 2-star him, he can be pretty strong, especially if you have that quick draw in with Ezreal. And now the front line, I mean, this is the early game, so it's very flexible. I like playing Blitz or Crank and Renekton. Honestly, whatever tanks, you just find 2 stars of early. There's not a lot that goes into the kind of early game here, I guess. You just want to start building those items that Lucian has.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting a really strong backline Lucian can pump out an awful lot of damage in a very short space of time, can't he? Just getting together some sort of front line that will be able to survive for 10-15 seconds and allow this Lucian to start actually cranking up some damage. Really strong early game.
And then in the mid game, once you find your Kaisa, this is a board that I like to level to at 6 on something like 3-2 after you've chosen your second augment. And maybe if you weren't able to streak through the stage 2, then you level up here and you roll for some of these guys. But the kind of core units that you want is Kaisa and then at least 2 quick draw. And then I really like Nyla. And I don't see a lot of other people who play this comp play Nyla. And maybe the right play isn't to play Nyla, but I just find myself hitting Nyla so much when I'm rolling for Kaisa. I often hit 3-star Nyla first, so I'm like, you know what, I'll just play it. She's an extremely strong unit, especially a 3-star. One of the tankiest units in the game, I think. Her healing is extremely strong. But yeah, if you manage to put a board like this with something like a 2-star Kaisa or a 2-star Nyla, either one of them on their own is enough to get you streaking through stage 3, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Kaisa being very impressive when she starts scaling. You've replaced your Lucian and moved your items across to Kaisa. So you mentioned rolling at 6 as well, Bill. Is that something that you find yourself doing regularly, or is it more of a case of if I don't have my 2-star Kaisa and a little bit of a 2-star frontline, or is it a case of you're always rolling to 2-star the whole board?
I think it's definitely dependent on your situation. I think you want to be rolling most when you've lost some health in stage 2. Or if you I think at the very least you want to hit the Kaisa. I don't know if you can do very well in stage 3 if you still have your items on Lucian.
Yeah,
and Kaisa, I think you definitely do need at least one 2-star frontline. 2-star Nyla is usually not super contested. Yeah. So to hit one of those very early puts you in a great spot.
Having a Kaisa that deals a Kaisa is a unit that even at 1-star can do a lot of damage if you give her enough time to scale up. So yeah, absolutely. Making sure that you hit that one Kaisa, it feels like at level 6 for me personally. It feels like hitting that one Kaisa is the most important thing. But if you can 2-star her, never say no, you know? But making sure you don't destroy your recon, because you still need to get to that late game board that we're going to move on to now as well.
This is a level 8 board here. You can roll at level 7 as well. I guess all you would really do is just drop the Annie or something. And you want to roll for Kaisa and Nyla and Alistar. Obviously you can roll at level 8 if you feel like you have a lot of HP or your econ is like really good. But I think if you're at like 4-2 or something and you already have like 6 Kaisas, it's like it might even be worth just rolling down to the spot level 7 and trying to hit 3-star.
Just a quick thought. Obviously you could also play Fiora. She synergizes.
Yeah, just for the duelist. Yeah.
Gets a little bit more healing on the front line as well. Annie is a theoretically stronger tank, but allowing that Nyla to heal up a little bit more might make the difference as well. It probably varies depending on your matchup as well.
Yeah. And here I said 3-star Nyla just because she seems pretty uncontested at the moment. 3-star Kaisa because she's the main damage dealer. I also have 3-star Alistar there. I think realistically in this meta, because there's like at least 3 people playing goddamn Borox Force, Viego, or Nico or something, or Twisted Fate.
Yeah.
It's very unlikely that you're gonna hit Alistar 3, but like he's just the 3 cost you're rolling, so you might be able to pick up some of them, and like in the off chance that you 3-star him, cool.
Yeah, so I was trying to avoid talking about the all-oppressive comp that is out there at the moment. Of course, Twisted Fate Spellslingers, an incredibly dominant comp if you can 2-star it. It just feels like the problem with it is being able to hit it, as it feels like you enter a lobby with 8 players and all of a sudden 7 of them have Twisted Fate at 3-2. And there's nothing you can do about it. That's why we're trying to move away from this comp. But it's impossible at the moment to not mention that comp in a meta talk. But yeah, being able to hit that Aegis, as you said, really helps defend against it. Give yourself a little bit more time.
Yeah, and I'll speak a little bit to items as well. Here, I don't have Rageblade on here, but I feel like Rageblade is a very, very important item to get her stacking up. And also, I'm not sure about Gunblade, because it generally feels pretty weak at the moment. And of course, JG it's dependent obviously on whether you have, I put Jeweled Lotus and Reconnaissance, what is it, Reconnaissance mission?
Reconnaissance team. Yeah, Reconnaissance.
Yeah.
The Kaisa support.
I got that. I think it's a lot stronger than her carry augment. I think in the case that you either get Jeweled Lotus or Reconnaissance team, you obviously drop the Jeweled Gauntlet because you already have crit.
Yeah.
And you can just throw on a Hodge or a Giant Slayer or Guardbreaker, any other damage item that you have that could just help her scaling up. Same goes for Misfortune as well. You could drop the Jewel Gauntlet either as a secondary carry there if you end up having extra. I have Kaisa in the middle there because in the case that you get like Reconnaissance team, but you can obviously spread them out more as well. Nyla is very important to have in the middle of your tanks because she heals people around. So don't put her on the edge. I also like having the Oxforce units on the edge, just because of the way they're like the way they get targeted more, and then the extra second just buys you some more time for the Kaisa to get scaling up. But it's like not a super huge deal.
Yeah, especially with backline access no longer really being a thing. With the fall off of the hacker meta, you tend to only have really 1 hacker per lobby, if that. I feel like grouping together is not, you don't get punished too much for it. However, it's worth noting when the opposition has an MF or when they have a Nico, there's a little bit of splash damage in the meta at the moment. So depending on the boards you're going up against, grouping like this or spreading out like this might be slightly better either way.
Yeah, God forbid you roll into a Janna reroll as well. That tornado could be dangerous.
That tornado can be exceptionally dangerous and well worth spreading out your comp as much as possible, even if you lose a bit of Nyla value.
To send off, why don't we talk a little bit about how our comps did from last week?
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you weren't here for last week's Highroller, we talked about Anima Squad, MF carry Anima Squad, and reroll Vex. Reroll Vex mascot with the Riftwalker in, of course. Last patch, both of these comps were extremely oppressive, especially the Vex reroll. God blow, I don't know how many times I went against that comp, and it just obliterated me. I'm so glad it's gone, to be honest. How about you?
Well,
Joe?
bad news,
what's your thoughts on
because the average placement for Mascot Vex right now in Masters Plus is still 4.2. The only thing that happened
see it
is that
though.
Yep, people aren't playing it as much. So,
Wow.
if you want, you're gonna have to watch all the last video to find out just how to play this comp, and you can play it in your own games.
Absolutely.
And Anima Squad still seems very strong.
Anima Squad not getting nerfed in the last patch is still extremely prevalent. That MF can one-shot an entire board. Really, really dangerous comp to go against, especially if you're not positioning against it. Yeah, well worth going back and having a look, as Dylan said, at the last week's meta report. And
And make sure to
yeah,
drop a like while you're there.
make sure to drop a like and subscribe down below.